If you're still running meta ads for local service businesses the same way you were 12 months ago, you're already falling behind and you don't even know it yet. I've been running my own agency for the last 5 years. I've done hundreds of thousands in lead gen for solar, roofing, dentists, and GLP-1 clinics. And I'm telling you right now, the old playbook is dead. In this video, I'm breaking down why the way agencies have been running meta lead gen for local clients doesn't work anymore, why every fix you're going to try is going to fail, and the one system that actually fixes it. If you're running local lead gen and still using last year's playbook, you're going to lose clients fast this quarter. All right, let's get into it. All right, we're gonna be going over why the old meta ads playbook is dead, kind of what's changed over the last 18 months and why Andromeda or the new algorithm, kind of how that's shaped the ad experience for us agencies. Okay, let's get into it. So Meta's algorithm rewired itself. Before, you used to be very hyper specific on what you could kind of target and kind of the demographics you went after. Now Meta is just trying to train their AI on your data, which is a good and a bad thing because it's going to become very good at targeting, but it's going to take some time. And that's typically why you see the campaign performance in the first month not be as great as when you have it like month 2, 3, or when more data is accumulated. But one thing you need to know is the new algorithm is actually tailoring itself towards what's called the cheapest possible conversion, because all it's trying to do is it's trying to get feedback on the pixel as quickly as possible. And that's why offline conversions or custom conversions that you feed to the pixel are much better than just an automatic pixel firing after a lead form is submitted. But we'll get into that more. But that's what you need to know, is the algorithm is pretty much going for the cheapest possible conversion at all times and doesn't really have a whole lot of incentive to filter through the traffic like it kind of previously was, because it's trying to train the AI model on your data. And because it's doing the cheapest possible conversion, that means a lot more bots are going to be ending up on your form. And overall, if someone that isn't even in your target audience interacts with your form, it's going to feed that pixel the bad data and start showing it to more of those types of people, which is why you need to be very specific with what your pixel actually fires on. And so because of these changes, now instant forms got absolutely destroyed. I used to not recommend them at all. Now I hyper not recommend them. If you're using instant forms in this day and age, you are actively sabotaging your own campaign. And the reason why is the friction is so low, it invites fraud, because people or their kids can fill out the form in literally 1 to 2 seconds. They just autofill their information. And even if you have multiple steps on your instant form, they can just click through and they just do the path of least resistance. That's why if you're running an instant form, for instance, and you have multiple pre-qualifying questions that are tap this, tap that, tap this, and then there's one where they actually have to type in their information. Usually most people fall off on the one that they type in their information because they're no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. But anyway, that's why instant forms are absolutely atrocious, because even when you have to type in that information, it can be pre-filled with what's on their Facebook account settings. So if they have a phone number tied to their Facebook account, or if they have an email tied to their Facebook account with their name, it can just pre-fill in your form after they've gotten done clicking through all of your individual qualifying questions. Real quick, if you want to use Argus 101, click the link below. You can get it for free for 14 days. It takes literally 5 minutes to sign up and install. All right, let's get back to the video. And the real issue is the bots crowd out the real leads. So you can't really tell what's real and what's fake because it's so easy to actually fill out the instant forms itself. And the quality just tanks without warning. You need to have tons of nurture sequences to really vet a lead before it ever hits your client. And by then, you're wasting tons of time, whereas you could be handing off that lead if you had the proper tools in place. And another factor because of this is the fact that your custom audiences are getting poisoned. So think of your pixel, your custom audiences, anything that you're trying to use your skills on the Facebook Ads Manager with, it's getting poisoned because of this, because you're allowing these fake submissions and you're allowing these shitty submissions in. You're poisoning your pixel over time, you're ruining your custom audiences, and you're giving Facebook the wrong data to iterate on and expand its reach. So that's what happens. It starts with a super small, and the worst part is the byproduct of this is your custom audiences are getting literally destroyed in real time. So a fake lead hits your pixel, then Facebook is going to start looking for more of those fake leads because it hit your pixel and it hit your conversion. Lookalikes built on fraud. So if you build up a lookalike audience, it's just going to find people that look like the people that are on your audience. So if you have fake leads and fake submissions that you haven't vetted on your lookalike, they're going to absolutely tank your campaign and it's going to be showed to the wrong people. And then the data underneath you is rotted. You didn't do anything wrong, but every decision that you're making based off that pixel is now poisoned. You can't make accurate analysis with the data of a pixel that is absolutely plagued and not actually optimizing for the correct thing. So the old way is dead, and that's why I always recommend, if you are doing lead gen, you want to use the 3-step funnel, which is sign up, book, thank you page. And the reason for the thank you page is you want to direct them at what's coming next. So if you have a nurture sequence where they need to respond, the thank you page will increase your conversion rate on that nurture response by like 50 to 60% at least. It gives them the next step that they need to do. And you want to be careful with the language. You don't want to be like, all right, you're all done now. It's like, no, you need to respond to the text to lock in your time. Those are just little tips and tricks along the way that you learn. So now what I actually want to do is I want to show you how these fake leads are actually getting through. Because with instant forms, they can be automated to just fill your instant form very quickly with whatever profile they're set up on. And it just wreaks havoc on your pixels. So most agency owners have no clue what a modern fake lead looks like. And that's why they keep shipping them straight to the client. And then they just factor into their overall conversion rate. When in reality, your conversion rate is probably much higher than you think. It's just you're shipping sometimes fake people. So it tanks your conversion rate overall. So headless browsers filling out forms at scale. If you don't know what a headless browser is, I have a video on the homepage of Argus where I actually do a headless browser submission myself to show you. It's literally a background process running on your computer that doesn't have a browser, and it can be automated to do pretty much whatever you want. So if you want to fill out forms with a headless browser, that is very possible and very doable. And you can even sequence the bot to make it do more human-based stuff like pausing in between steps. So if you don't have any kind of detection for bots, they are just going to roll right through your form very quickly. Real looking data from old data breaches. So all the time, people's data gets posted on the dark web or on these resale forums. And if someone has a list of 500 names of data that they've bought and they're just flooding your form with it, you're going to contact these people and you're probably going to get a TCPA violation because it's probably not the first time they've been contacted by something they haven't signed up for. And they've probably grown pretty accustomed to the fact that they are not supposed to be getting texted by a business or a company that they did not sign up for. So these are a giant hazard for your client. And if they hit your client with a TCPA lawsuit, you can kiss that client goodbye. They're not only going to be mad at you, but they're probably going to sue you as well for damages. Then you have the competitor sabotage. So yeah, as annoying as this sounds, it's a thing. Competitors will have VAs designated to just sabotaging your form and then poaching your client. And they'll send them some email. It's like, are you dealing with bad lead quality, this, that? Come over to us. We have a lead quality guarantee. Or, something along those lines where they know that they're ruining your lead quality, but they can send your client an email that really resonates, and they're like, oh, I want to try out this guarantee since my current agency is giving me straight shit. And then you have the click farms with real humans who have zero intent. And I kind of got into this with my last video, but this is kind of like the reCAPTCHA thing, and that's why I was explaining why CAPTCHAs are just terrible, is you can literally have someone fill out a CAPTCHA for, I think it's 1,000 submissions for $2. So if someone has $10 of budget and then a VA, they can just roll right through your CAPTCHA, or $10 of budget and a headless browser. They can just absolutely murk your form at scale on however many campaigns you're running. So you got to be really careful of these things. So the most common fraud that you will encounter with these people that buy this fake data off the dark web, or not really even fake data, but real data, real people's information used for malicious purposes, is going to be the headless browser farm. And the reason why is it's the most economically viable one to run. Instead of hiring out a VA, all you really need is, if someone has a CAPTCHA, you get the reCAPTCHA thing, like I said, where it's $2 for 1,000 submissions, and then it's a script running. So you take the data from the Excel sheet and then run it through the script with the reCAPTCHA tool on it. And essentially, it just wreaks havoc on whatever form is in its way. And it can fill out hundreds of your forms in the time it takes you to eat lunch. Most of them won't do that because then you'll kind of know that something's up. What they'll do is they'll mix in a few submissions here and there, and just dilute your pixel over time. And it's set up to look exactly like a normal Chrome user's experience. And the only way you can really catch this kind of stuff is through looking at the device itself, seeing the plugins installed and seeing what's actually going on in the background processor. And you can't do that with normal anti-fraud tools. And that's why these things can absolutely just wreak havoc on your form. Because 99% of agency owners, they don't check for any of this stuff. At most, they'll do a phone validator or email validator, but they don't actually check the device itself or what's actually running on the application of the device that's actually submitting the information to you. So it's a giant hazard, and it could be silently diluting your leads if you're running any type of campaign in the lead gen area and you have a competitor that's just pesky. And this is why it is so important to have a tool like Argus that doesn't just check, phone, email, but also checks 101 data points about that specific lead. Because most of these people, they're going to use real Gmail addresses, they're going to use real phone numbers, and they're going to use real looking names or real names attached, which means if you're just running a phone validator or an email validator, you're going to count these as all real submissions. When in reality, if you could actually see the submission itself, it's probably being done in like either 2 or 5 seconds, which is just way too fast to fill out a form. And if you're not using instant forms, that's pretty much impossible for a real human being to do, because unless they can actually pre-fill their information inside your form, which if it's an instant form, they can, and you're not using the 3-step funnel like I just told you to, then it's going to be very easy for you to just let these slip right by, even if you are using a phone or email validator. And I think the most annoying discovery for me over running an agency for the last 5 years is, like, back in the day, I used to be like, all right, competitor sabotage is kind of like the boogeyman. It probably, is just something in your dreams, hides under your bed, whatever. It's not real. But when you start running an agency for over 5 years and you're still running as this day, like I am, what you're going to find is it's actually way more common than you think. Because once people actually find out kind of the clients you have, some people that you're working with, which is crucial, why you shouldn't like just directly show all the clients you work with on your website. You should kind of keep them hidden and then show past clients you've worked with. It's a good way to go about it. But anyway, if you're showing the direct clients you're working with on your website, people can just go to your website, figure out which clients in that certain niche you're working with, sabotage all the clients, and then send them the email about the lead quality issue. And it's like, oh yeah, no, I am dealing with lead quality issues right now. But yeah, it's way more common than you think in local niches. And the agency owners, they don't realize it. They kind of just chalk it up to like a bad conversion rate on a certain campaign, or people just aren't answering. They're not being receptive to their ad or their messaging or their nurturing. But in reality, it could be this that's absolutely sabotaging you. And I know this video is about meta ads specifically, but it's also a massive problem on Google ads, but it's a little different because meta is you're paying per the impression. Google, you're paying for the click. So what happens on Google is you have these click fraud farms, which essentially it's a headless browser that rotates IPs or proxies and continues to click on your search result on Google. And since you're paying for the click and it's a new IP and it kind of changes where it's from, Google registers that as a new user and charges you directly. So you could have like a $500 budget on a Google campaign. And if they're charging you $5 per click, it's going to get rinsed pretty quick if they have some kind of automated script that's doing this every single day. And you're just going to absolutely lose on the campaign. And overall, it's going to be a net loss. And I know this because I've actually ran multiple Google campaigns, and it's a little more competitive depending on the niche that you're in. For instance, like I ran some loan campaigns a couple times, and loans in Google fraud is ridiculous. It is one of the most cutthroat, ruthless niches that you can be in, especially in Google ads, because those competitors, dude, they don't give a fuck. They will drain your budget then put their ad above yours. So take that with what you will. I thought we'd go into Google as well since, we're just going into fraud in general. But so one thing that people do, and my dumbass did the same thing when I first found out I had this problem, is they'll do what's called like a Frankenstein kind of stack, where they'll stitch together like an email validator with a phone validator with some kind of IP thing. And the problem with that is it's a good start. However, nothing's talking to each other. So when you have all these things combined together, then you have to literally read all the data that's being deciphered to you over and over again, then make the decision based on your knowledge. You know how many kind of formula that's going into it, any kind of algorithm. So this can be very time consuming, and you end up having to like hire someone entirely just for this process alone of just grading the leads, then sending them over. And so when you have all these tools that aren't talking to each other, it becomes kind of a time sink, even though you have the right intentions, but it's just not a very efficient way of going about things. And to be honest, you're hitting like 3 signals where there's like over 100 that you could be hitting on. And so, yeah, like I just said, like the Frankenstein stack, as you can see up here, you subscribe, stitch, no verdict. It's nothing's talking to each other. And the problem is, again, every tool is checking one slice. And without communication between the tools, it is just going to turn into a massive time sink, especially if you're running like 10 to 15 campaigns. You are going to be sitting your ass at your desk all day, reviewing leads and trying to send them as quickly as possible because you need the lead to speed, or speed to lead. But the stack is broken in more than just ways than that. Stuff can actually break inside of the Zapier automation if you're setting up with Zapier, or if you're just trying to stitch together a bunch of different tools. So the damage is already done. Handoffs break constantly. So the handoff between tools break constantly. You can have what's called a silent failure, which is what happens when a tool just silently stops working and then just sends you the data and it's not even verified. That's annoying. That happens. The stack costs more than you realize. So by the time you've stitched together everything, spend all your time on this, you're looking at like $300 a month easily. And that's probably on top of the VA that you're going to have to hire for this, because your ass isn't going to sit there all day and judge leads for yourself. You're going to want someone to do that so you can continue to scale the business. And with the damage is already done, what I'm trying to tell you here is these tools, they're not stopping them from hitting the CRM. They're still hitting the CRM, and then you're either tagging them accordingly, or you're just like telling your client, hey, by the way, that lead that we just sent you 5 minutes ago, the phone number is not valid, the IP is in a different state. And it just kind of makes you look kind of dumb, even though that you are trying to validate them in real time. And then what happens is then you'll stop sending them to the CRM automatically, and you'll have to manually upload them to the CRM, which takes even more time. And again, speed to lead, you're just going to get killed here, and the lead's not going to be interested by the time you actually vet them manually. And so that's why you need something like Argus. And the reason why you need something like Argus is it doesn't just look at 3 data points, it looks at over 101. And on top of that, it has a behavioral layer, and everything is automated, which means the lead scoring is automated. You can route certain leads to the webhook that is connected to your CRM based on their score. So the routing is actually automated. You don't have to manually vet all these leads before they hit your client. And on top of that, you can actually set geo matching for specific campaigns, so only leads within the certain state reach your client. So it makes everything so much easier, so much simpler, and it's going to end up being less than what you're trying to do where you stitch together all these tools and have a VA actually manage it. So there's 4 pillars with Argus 101, and it checks 101 checks at the submission. And the behavioral layer, catching bots and click farms, it sees how they actually interact with the form, and that's why it can actually catch these headless browsers, because it sees it either just fucking blitzing through the form, or it sees how it's actually interacting with the page. Because most people, when they're filling out a form, you tend to like go back and look at like kind of how you typed, look at what you actually said, take a minute between each field on the form. And if you don't have all these things actually looking at your form while someone's submitting it, or while they're actually on your funnel itself, then you're just going to get destroyed by these headless browsers or click fraud farms. And again, the nice thing is the verification actually hits before it hits the CRM. So you can really filter out these bad leads before they ever touch your client, which makes you look significantly better in terms of a lead gen operator. And instead of having like 7 different dashboards, 7 different tools all stitched together inside of Zapier automation, it's just one flat price that you pay every month. And there is a 14-day free trial as well, so you can test it out completely for free. And a really cool thing about Argus is if you set up your own Zapier automation, you're going to notice that it takes like 8 to 10 seconds for it to actually verify the lead between each individual step. And that's because it has to go through the phone validator, and then it runs to the email validator, and then it runs to the IP checker. And all of that takes like 6 to 8 seconds, at least, maybe 10 if it's slow. And that, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but in the lead gen world, in terms of speed to lead, that is way too long, especially if you're manually verifying it. So Argus does all 101 data points in under 150 milliseconds, and it's because it runs all of them in parallel. It has no API handoff, so no Zapier glue, no waiting on other tools to talk to each other. It happens all at once, simultaneously, and you get one score, one tier, one routing decision, and you can set up your routing decisions inside the webhook itself. You can either set them to which individual state you want, what type of score that you want going into the CRM, and there's tons of options with dedupe as well. And getting into the dedupe itself, you can actually dedupe leads based on their device fingerprint, because Argus doesn't only just go through all 101 data points, it actually fingerprints every single submission that someone submits on your form. Meaning, if you have a competitor that's submitting different looking information on your form through the same device itself, it will catch that competitor and mark it as a duplicate on the device itself. And you have velocity controls as well, which what velocity controls do is it limits the amount of submissions your form takes in a certain time period. So if you just get hammered by headless browsers, or you get hammered by a bot farm, you can set it to like 5 submissions every 10 minutes. So all the other submissions, they just block it. So in my humble opinion, I think one of the coolest things about Argus is the behavioral layer, because not only is it determining what information you fill out, is it correct or not, it's looking at how you actually fill it out, how you interact with the funnel, how you actually interact with the page itself, and then how you actually interact with the form. And it combines all those into the compound score, which is being graded in real time in about 150 milliseconds. So the behavioral layer is going to stop the majority of the headless browser fraud farm or the bot farm, because it's actually seeing how they interact with the page itself. And so this comes like to mouse movement and paste behavior, scroll patterns, typing rhythm, and there's obviously a lot more that goes into it, but I can't give away all the proprietary details because, that wouldn't be good for the business. And so yeah, it literally looks at how you fill out the form, what information you put in the form, how you submit it, how you interact with the page itself, and grades it all in under 150 milliseconds before it ever hits your client's CRM. And the nice thing, again, is you can be super customizable on what you actually let through to your client's CRM. So if you just want the premium leads and the standard leads, you can configure it to that. If you want to let all leads through, you can do that. I mean, I don't know why you would, but you could do that as well. If you want to let certain geographical areas through, you can do that as well. And the nice thing, again, and this is something we haven't really mentioned much, but Argus, the webhook itself that goes into your CRM, you can build automations based on what it's sending in the webhook with custom fields like in Go High Level. So if you want leads that are inside the campaign geomatch area to have a certain follow-up, you can do that. And the ones that are out of state, you can have them with a different follow-up. If you want leads with the premium to route to your best callers, you can do that. And the ones that are standard, you can route to your not so great callers or your in-house callers, whatever. This, you get the point. There is so much customization that you can utilize with Argus to really tailor make it to your agency or your business itself. And one flat price replaces the entire stack I talked about that is wildly inefficient, and then you have to have someone actually manually grade the leads itself. So that is Argus. The meta ads playbook that worked last year does not work this year for local businesses. The leads got faker, the tools got weaker, and the clients got less patient. If you're running local lead gen and you're not verifying every lead before it hits your client CRM, you're going to keep losing clients no matter how good your creative or how good your lead gen is. So if you want to use Argus 101 to almost immediately improve the leads to your client, click the link below and use the 14-day free trial. All right, peace.